Hello there, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Victorious Ones podcast, a place where gaming meets comics, meets sports, meets movies, as well as inspiration. Of course, I'm your host, King Von Jr. You can follow me on social media on Twitter /X at 301 King Von Jr. You can follow the show's Twitter page at VictoryPod1. I'm also on Instagram at Mr. King Von Jr. You can follow the show's Instagram page at Victorious Ones podcast. I'm also the social media producer for the Unpopular Reviews wrestling show Perfect Plex Talk Radio, of course, which comes on Mondays at 6 p.m. hosted by my co-host Mike Knox. And I have to say that this week has definitely been quite an event in more ways than one. Like I say, of course, I want to cover. Of course, I want to cover the scores for NFL Week 2, and I'm going to say that when I say that Week 2 did not feel real. It really did not. Primarily with my Cowboys, just going down in complete disgrace. Of course, in front of the whole world. Of course, at home, at home at Cowboys Stadium. And of course, by the way, thank you for those that have been watching and tuning in. By way of Twitter /X. I still call it Twitter. And of course, if you're on YouTube, go to youtube.com/@VonResper Jr. Resper Jr. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more great content. Of course, like I said, of course, I'll go over give a rundown of the results for NFL Week 2, as well as the week in wrestling. Actually, when it comes to SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. Of course, with this lead up to Bad Blood, and some of the matches that are already pretty much set in stone at this point, as well, like I say, as well as with the eventual implosion of the New Day as we see it, how they're unraveling right in front of our very eyes. Power pop positivity, not so much right now. Doesn't really feel so positive at this point. And of course, along with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, eventually having their Hell in a Cell match, which it's going to look like it's going to be the grand finale of that feud, which it finally needs to come to an end. I'm also going to talk about as far as Roman and Cody in terms of their chemistry, how they're both intertwined as they say. So I post those on Twitter. That said that that brought up how the dads wrestled each other before and things like that. Just little Easter egg connections or whatever. So, like I said, I talk about that, especially because they're going to be teaming up against Solo and Jacob at Bad Blood. And also, this past weekend, I had of course, for the second year in a row, I had the privilege and honor to be a guest at the Congressional Black Caucus gala. Of course, that took place on Saturday night, and of course, before that, my church had a great car and bike show, but of course, as far as that evening, like I said, that was definitely a weekend evening of excellence and elegance, if you will. Like pretty much like it's kind of like a black and white gala. And so, like I said, it was absolutely amazing. And like I said, thank you very much for those that have been watching, even by way of Facebook Live, Twitter. If you happen to be on Facebook, even on Twitter, please make sure to share this link. Please make sure to share this video so the views can continue to go up. But be like I said, as far as that, first and foremost, like I said, the CBC, CBC gave the black and white. Like I said, black and white gala. It was great. Like I said, this is my second time going, and and of course, like I said, I certainly enjoyed it. It's definitely a great night. Of networking. It's just a great week of networking. As far as that's concerned, like I said, networking, like I said, connecting and just celebration and just in general, and of course, the black and white gala is the conclusion of CBC week, right? And so, like to the conclusion, the exclamation point, whatever you want to call it. And you know what I mean? Like I said, of course, while I was there, ran, I say, of course, ran the people that ran some friends that I already know. You know what I mean? As well as got the chance to meet new people, and network anyway in general. And so, you know what I mean? Like I said, it was great. Like I said, it was definitely, like I said, a night to celebrate, but also, of course, on the flip side, we're going to NFL Week 1. I mean, not Week 1, but it's going to be Week 2. Definitely got to check my fantasy points as well after that. And when I say that Week 2 did not feel real, it certainly did. Well, of course, it kicked off with the Bills just clobbering the Dolphins 31-10. And I got to say that it looks like Tua might want to go ahead and just call it a career at this point. With the way that he's been, the way this dude's been KO'd. You know what I mean? Like, just left and right, up and down. I mean, like I said, this dude is definitely going through it. You know what I mean? So like I said, as far as that, and of course, the Vikings definitely got upset win over the 49ers. And Justin Jefferson was definitely had to be the MVP of that game. And of course, you see that Seahawks beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl rematch. But without the same stars before. Washington, of course, picked up the first one this season with the field goal over the Giants at home at 21-18. The Chargers just completely blew out the Panthers 26-3. I mean, obviously, but the biggest upset of them all, just the most embarrassing game of them all, Cowboys versus Saints. I thought it was going to be much more competitive, but I was absolutely wrong. The fact that we that we gave up 44 points, and the defense completely laid an egg. You know what I mean? And it's just Micah Parsons was null and void, nowhere to be found. And and just with, and especially when, of course, I've had conversations about this, all week at this point, about how Derek Carr was just just had like this pinpoint accuracy, just the efficiency that he had. Our defense made Derek Carr look like Drew Brees, and our defense also made Alvin Kamara look like whatever Hall of Fame running back you might think of, Eric Dickerson at this point, especially with the way that he just ran, just ran down our throats as far as our defense. Had no answers for them. And also a lot of holding calls that, of course, that were not called when it came to New Orleans. The Saints got with a lot of calls. I'm not making an excuse, but at the same time, I mean, it's what it is, and it's just the Saints just wanted more when at the end of the day in the long run. You know what I mean? So if anything, the Cowboys certainly had a crash out. And so, so of course, as far as that, of course, the Packers beat the Colts 16-10. The Browns sort of rebound, if you will, against the Jaguars 18-13. That's not saying much. Jets beat the Titans 24-17. The Bucks beat the Lions 20-16. The Raiders beat the Ravens 26-23. So of course, the Ravens are 0-2, and they're going to play us this Sunday at Cowboys Stadium. And so, of course, that game is going to be a matter of survival. That's as far as that. It's just, like I said, it's going to be a game of survival, and and just like if anything, if anything, I mean, something's got to give as far as this upcoming Sunday game at 4:25. It's a prime time game, and something's got to give. Here's what I meant to say. As well as looking for fight or flight. So survival of the fittest and fight or flight. That is the mentality that each of these teams are on right now. The Cardinals just blow out the Rams 41-10. The Rams have definitely been out of sync lately. 41-10. Oh my gosh. At least Kyler Murray's my fantasy quarterback, so at least I can get some pretty big fantasy points hopefully from him. Chiefs beat the Bengals 26-25 narrow. They beat them by the skin of their teeth. And even though Patrick Mahomes, like I say, even though Mahomes was not playing at his absolute best, certainly not by his standards, but he still found a way to win. You know what I mean? Like the Chiefs themselves, just found a way to edge this out. Steelers beat the Broncos 13-6. Texans beat the Bears 19-13. As far as that, and then in the upset on Monday Night Football that I did not expect. The Falcons beat the Eagles 22-21. And it's certainly a much tighter game than the Dallas and New Orleans game. I was actually kind of expected the Eagles to win, but like I said, but at least it was still a very entertaining and very compelling game, if you will. So that is the rundown of week 2, and it's just week two just feels like didn't feel real, almost like some multiverse type of thing. You know what I mean? And just with the tone of this season, I wouldn't be surprised if you got the top quarterbacks having to be the likes of not only Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, of course, but at this rate, probably even Justin Herbert might even be up there, for all we know. But yeah, like I say, that's my rundown of rundown of NFL week 2, and so of course now it's time to get like I say now it's time to get into two. So like some go into this rundown, but yeah, like I said, of course covered CBC, covered the Cowboys meltdown, and then now it is time to talk about, of course, Friday Night SmackDown. Of course, this past Friday, SmackDown made its debut on the USA Network, and so of course, the matches that had, like it was all right. So it's like I say, the matches that were advertised. Of course, the main ones were Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, and a cage match for the undisputed WWE Championship. Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes, Part 5, pretty much. And of course, A-Town Down Under versus Kevin Owens and a mystery partner. So of course, SmackDown, certainly opening up a big fashion, especially with it being on a new network on USA. The former home of Monday Night Raw. Well, of course, Raw is going to be on Netflix come 2025. But SmackDown opens with Triple H coming out to usher in a new era of the Blue brand on Fox, along with a new logo. And of course, another thing I definitely want to talk about is Meg doing the soundtrack for SmackDown. Congratulations to her. So I'm going to share my thoughts. Share my thoughts about that in a minute. But yeah, like I said, as far as that, like I said, Triple H came out to usher in, like I said, the new era of SmackDown on Fox, and so of course, and of course, came out, said a few words, before the cage was lowered, and so of course, Solo Sikoa came out, of course, the bloodline's never going to be far away. Then, of course, in the match, Cody took control early, but of course, there was one mistake that led Solo sending Cody into the cage wall. And so of course, this match included a flying headbutt from Solo, which eventually, of course, in typical Rhodes fashion, Cody gets busted open, and of course, a Solo hit, hit two spinning solos, but of course couldn't get the pin. Of course, at least this match, shows some pretty decent chemistry, but at the same time, there's always just an element that's missing when it comes to Solo. Of course, course, for a cage match, like I said, it obviously had to have some type of blood in there anyway. But but of course, with the premiere of it being in the USA, obviously it wasn't going to show too much violence anyway. But but of course, to wrap it up, at the end of the day, Cody Rhodes defeated Solo to retain, obviously the undisputed WWE championship. And so of course, after Fellas did win with the cross body from the top rope, Cody was able to score the pinfall to keep the championship. And so of course afterwards the Bloodline showed up and attacked Cody in the cage. Then Jacob Fatu came in and he was about to hit a splash from the top rope, but was distracted by Roman's music. And so of course the OTC, the original Tribal Chief, the only Tribal Chief for that matter, entered the cage and of course took everybody out. And then of course Jacob Fatu saved Solo from a spear before scoring off with Roman Reigns. And then so of course Solo dragged him out with Tangaloa went after Roman Reigns. Of course Cody and Roman took out both of them before they eventually had their standoff. And so later on, Roman would sign. Spoiler alert: later on, Roman would eventually sign the contract to become Cody's tag team partner for their match. For the match against Solo and Jacob at Bad Blood on October 5th. And so, I'm going to give more. Like I said, I'm going to give more of my thoughts. Like I said, right after I finish the rest of this rundown. Of course, next up we have Michin versus Piper Niven, and Michin defeated. Like I said, of course, Michin defeated Piper Niven. Like I said, it's kind of like pretty much what it was. And so like I said, of course, the match wasn't on the same. Nowhere near the same level as this match that Amicia had with Nia Jax. That just brought something out of her. Just brought the absolute best out of her with that one. But when it comes to Piper, not so much. For one, especially because of how short the match was, and like I said, of course, Amicia used a candle stick on Chelsea Green before Piper Niven took her down with a senton. But of course, eventually Michin scored a fast win with the Eat Defeat. That's a finishing move. But anyway, like I said, of course the match itself was too short. But like I said, of course it just didn't really add much to the table. Like I said, the chemistry with Michin and Piper was certainly nowhere near the chemistry that Michin, as I said before, had with someone like Nia Jax. The next up we have A-Town Down Under versus Kevin Owens, and his mystery partner was revealed to be Randy Orton. And so of course, like we saw, I actually know what. I guess I'm burying the lead, at least giving away way too much, way too soon right now. But originally, like I said, Kevin Owens revealed his mystery partner. His local talent, by the name of Ricky, and so of course KO tried to give him a good intro, and of course a PA, told him to Owens that his real partner had arrived. At least the announcer had told Kevin Owens that his real partner arrived, and so of course KO, KO gave Ricky a stunner to get him out the ring, so that his real partner Randy Orton would arrive, and of course Austin Theory, Grayson Waller took control right before the show, before we went to a commercial break, and then of course as the match came back from break, they continued to keep Kevin Owens isolated from his partner, of course, eventually KO had to trick Waller and Theory before he finally make the hot tag, to Randall RKO. And of course, they both had DDTs at the same time before hitting the stunner RKO for the win. And like I said, it was a very simple, but but at the same time, obviously very much entertaining. And but at the same time, like when you look at Orton and Owens standing together, like I said, standing together in victory, as Mike and I talked about it um, on Monday on Perfect Plex, that one of them is going to turn on each other. Both of them are naturally great heels, in their own right. And so, of course, they have reputations for being backstabbers. Look at KO's track record, and certainly look at Randall. I mean, he's the Viper. I mean, that's self-explanatory anyway. But I'm just curious to see who's going to turn on who first. There's a part of me that's thinking that KO might turn on that KO might turn first, but knowing Orton's track record and just his experiences, is like I wouldn't put it past him to be the first one to turn. Just because Orton is one of the greatest heels of all time. Anyway, so. So, of course, after that we have Andrade versus Carmelo, part 5, and Andrade defeats Carmelo in another great match. It's just like their chemistry is neck and neck. You know what I mean? Like anytime you put them together, you just know something special is going to happen, as I've said before. And of course, last but not least, Roman would sign a contract for the tag match, and of course, he reluctantly handed it to Cody, who eventually inked his name to end the show. And so, for their debut on USA, this wasn't a bad entry. You know what I mean? Certainly, we had some really nice matches, pretty good segments to keep storylines moving forward. Even starting the show off with a championship match, and a great way to make to make a first impression. And knowing Cody's track record, his history, he likes to open up the show for the sake of setting the tone. Meanwhile, Roman is the complete opposite, and which leads me to wonder, is Cody maybe too codependent on Roman, because his best storyline or chemistry, as a champion, or at least in the title picture, is all as consistently involved Roman. You take Roman away from Cody's title run, it doesn't hit the same. I mean, even though he had that, he had the Aqua match against AJ Styles, he had that, and of course, he had that match with Logan Paul, the SummerSlam match with Solo. But outside of Roman, it's just like, it's not really a lot to see out there. You know what I mean? There's a lot left to be desired when it comes to Cody away from Roman, and I've been hearing other podcasters shout out to Kaz and Shoemaker on the other Mass Man show. Like I said, shout out to Kaz and David Shoemaker on the Mass Man podcast. I listen, of course, that's one of the podcasts I listen to on all the time on a regular basis, and how Kaz especially, was pitching. Of course, both of them, but more so Kaz, especially with him. Just like I said, just pitching the idea of a rivalry, one of those all-time rivalries, between Cody and Roman, as far as them being dance partners, much like, much like Rock and Austin, Hogan and Savage,
HBK and Brett. You know, if you want to throw in Cena and Orton, if you will. So he was kind of coming up with the idea of of Roman and Cody being in that vein as well, right? Even though Roman has has had other dance partners already, with the likes of with the likes of Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, right? And you can make the argument that those are some of Roman's greatest dance partners, even though Roman and Seth were never in the main event of WrestleMania, just because but yet because of the Shield connection, that means a lot. Roman and Brock have certainly been the main of WrestleMania at least 3 times, and so and then now Roman has Roman has someone like Cody. But the thing about it is that um, much of Cody's drawing power as champion has had to so far is needed to have Roman's name attached to it. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns, his presence alone speaks for itself. You know what I mean? And of course, I certainly believe that, especially at this stage, I feel as though, even though Cody is a special talent in and of himself, but it's looking as if he needs Roman way more than Roman needs him. I don't want to sound like it sound like we're having bloodline fatigue. To a certain extent, you can almost say that we're kind of having Cody versus the bloodline fatigue, if you will. I guess for the sake of keeping his title reign strong, you have to have him, continuously paired up with the bloodline, and now to the point where where he's intertwined in this greater family dynamic between Roman and his own family. When it comes to Solo and Jacob, and of course with Tama Tonga Lower, bloodline by affiliation, if you will, and the question kind of begs: does Cody need to specifically be, does he consistently need to be right in the middle of this bigger family picture? Even though I guess really more so it has to do with, especially with the fact that he's a champion, and no matter what, Roman's still, like I said, Roman's still going to go up the title. Like I say, at the end of the day, that's still his main objective, right? So on one end, he has to handle family business, but at the same time, he still has his eye on the bigger prize, which is the championship, right? But as a part of me, I still feel as though there's more, that Cody can do outside of his Roman affiliation. We have a whole entire potential storyline feud with. Let me see. Oh, that hat right now. Anyway, gone this far with that hat, it just didn't feel right. But anyway, anyway, to me, like I said before, how can I say this? Cody still has a whole nother potential feud with someone like Randy Orton, who's still waiting in the wings whenever he wraps things up with KO. As a matter of fact, Orton, as I've pointed this out before, when Cody won the championship at WrestleMania, Randy Orton was one of the guys that held Cody up. And if you look carefully, Orton had a certain look in his eyes when it came to the way he was looking at Cody. You could tell he was looking at his eyes on the championship. And even the other pay-per-view after that was a Backlash. He briefly looked at the championship once again, and he's already wrapped up the business that he had with Gunther, which like I said, which eventually opens him up for for a feud that's been written from the beginning ever since their time as Legacy, right? So I feel as though instead of continuously trying to link Cody and Roman together as like eternal rivals or whatever, like I said, as far as that, like I said, there's more than that. Hold on. Yeah. I'm recording. Anyway, sorry about that, but like I said, because like I said, because of the fact that Cody is so becoming so synonymous, with another wrestling family or dynasty, someone else synonymous with somebody else who has wrestling family ties, right? Since they're linking them up so much with Roman, it's just like you already have another storyline that's been that's been written in the stars for years, with him and like I said, between him and Randy Orton, right? And so like I said, if you want to finish the story, there's a story right there for you to finish in and of itself, but yeah, like I said, that's those are my thoughts when it comes to SmackDown. And of course, now I'm going to go into Monday Night Raw, which of course, which has a lot to be, like I say, which has a lot to be talked about as well. Oh, you know what? And one more thing before I go even further. Congratulations to, like I said, congratulations to Meg Thee Stallion for for bringing the new soundtrack for SmackDown. And I know that there have been a lot of critics, a lot of skeptics when it comes to wrestling and hip hop, even though that connection has been around for years, ever since Run DMC and WrestleMania 5, right? It's always been there, but now more than ever, and of course, like the history's been there ever since, since WWF used to have those soundtrack, like WWF Aggression, whatever it was. I know they had an entire album where they had hip hop versions of theme songs. My favorite one was the one with Method Man doing the Rock's theme song. I remember Snoop, even did the theme song for Stone Cold. I want to say Ice-T did one for The Godfather. Run DMC did one for DX. Things like that. So it's nothing new, and then that, of course, now it's taken to another level. Now, of course, with Meg doing the soundtrack for SmackDown, which I'm perfectly fine with. You know what I mean? And so, but at the same time, you have heavy metal Twitter getting their feelings and catching the attitude about it. And especially because of the fact that the Def Rebel is gone now, thankfully. It's just like, I mean, even though they had a few hits, but at the same time, they have come across a lot of misses, and there's a lot of stuff that that felt very generic, if you will, And so Meg having this partnership with WWE in this aspect is definitely a great shot in the arm. So hopefully I'm thinking that we're going to end up getting even closer to Meg showing up on WWE television. As a matter of fact, of course, as a matter of fact, there's that famous picture with her and Bianca Belair. And so, so of course, recently when the news came out that she inked the deal with WWE, apparently Mercedes, formerly known as Sasha, was apparently caught by surprise. I think she was kind of in her feelings about it, but Meg definitely made the right move for herself, from a business standpoint, right? So I would say that that she was friends with with Bianca, had connection with Bianca even before she had any type of connection with Mercedes. And I would say, if anything, Meg definitely dodged the bullet by doing that, doing that soundtrack with WWE instead of doing anything with AEW. Like, nah, Meg made, like I said, if anything, Meg made the right decision, right? And so, good. So, but yeah, like I said, it's of course in that aspect. Let me say it like this: if we as fans, now, I will say that especially in the Ruthless Aggression era, there was a lot of great wrestling. Uh, there was a lot of there's pretty nice rock themed wrestling music that I was kind of a fan of. That was pretty much a fan of. Of course, anybody within my age group, generation, whatever. Like so, like I said, WWF or WWE. So it certainly has some hit. Certainly, has some W's. With certain songs, but just like at this point, you know, um, those days of, like I say, those days of, like trying to pull whatever some of these other groups' names or whatever the case is, those days are over. Those days of of Limp Bizkit doing Undertaker's theme song, those days are over. We have moved out of that. That was then. This is now. You know, um, you know, it's just like as I become a man who put away childish things. You know, uh, you know, um, rock music for wrestling has now become childish things. So now, like I say, now it's just time to just to embrace something new, something different, and it's just like that's the way it is, just the way the world is. If you're not a fan of that, unfortunately, it's not for you. Too bad. I hate to say it like that, but exit stage left. Exit stage left. If you're if you're still set in your ways, if you will, and and have some type of resentment and things like that. I mean, it's all about moving forward, right, and not being stagnant. So Meg is a huge plus when it comes to WWE and their music. You know, um, I can't wait. You know what I mean? And of course, speaking of women in wrestling, by the way, um, today the WWE 2K24 Global Superstars pack has dropped, featuring Jade Cargill and Nia Jax, among many others. So I can't wait to uh, buy that. I can't wait to buy that new DLC pack. I've definitely gotten I definitely gotten the Nightmare Family pack. That was the first one that I got. It featured Dusty, Superstar Billy Graham, Stardust, and the action figure Cody, whatever. I also got obviously I got the ECW pack, featuring the Dudley Boys and CM Punk. But this Global Superstars pack, I'm ready for it. I can't wait. So, like I said, those are my thoughts about SmackDown. Now, when it comes to Monday Night Raw, this is really what it really started cooking. Raw starts off with with the CM Punk promo, and I mean, CM Punk was in his element when it comes to that. When it came to this promo, and I mean, like you could just tell in his eyes. You could tell by the fire in this dude's eyes. That the Punk is ready to end it all. He's ready to risk it all. Where Punk says that that he's at the point of his career where sometimes people ask him how many matches does he have left in those old bones. Depend on and he's like, depending on how you feel about me, the answer is either wildly disappointed or it makes you tremendously happy. And of course, because the answer is way more than you think. And Punk was talking about like when he came back to the WWE, he said he didn't come here to make friends. Obviously, we said he didn't come here to make friends, came to make money, right? And then he said that didn't necessarily mean that he came to make a moral enemy. But that's exactly what he did. His moral enemy in this case is Drew McIntyre. And so he said, so much so that the only way to end it is that between himself and Drew McIntyre inside of Hell in a Cell. And and of course, Punk was saying that he felt a bit naive to think that they thought it was over, because he touched all four turnbuckles in Berlin, just because he got the W at Bash in Berlin. And of course, maybe Drew was a little naive to think it was going to be over, because he jumped Punk in Chicago, because he jumped Punk in Chicago months ago and tried to drag his wife AJ and the dog into this. And so, of course, he's saying that, we all probably agree that it should have stopped. And of course, the second time, second time he sent Drew to the hospital 2 weeks ago. But of course, Punk, as we know, is just way too stubborn for his own good. And of course, saying that Drew's fatal mistake, was they didn't get the job done. They didn't get rid of him when he had a chance to. And and so of course, Punk was saying that people asked him how many Hell in a Cell matches does he have left in him. And of course, his honest answer was 0, and to the point where his sister, his wife, even asked him not to do it. But then, of course, sorry about that. Like I say, Punk was just in his element in this, and he was like telling Drew McIntyre he can't promise that he was going to kill him, because he was like, I won't make promises that won't 100% cannot deliver. And so Punk did promise that he was going to make him bleed. And he promised, promising that he was going to kill him. He's promising that that he would have to kill him, because he was saying because I'm prepared to die and I'm prepared for the heart to stop beating. And so of course Punk was saying that he was prepared for it all, to end it all, for it all to be over with. And talking about he's had a great career. He was like, if this is the end, let it be, so be it. And he was like, I'm prepared for this to be the end of CM Punk. And of course, that's when he was telling me that that of course that's when when he made it official that they're gonna face each other in Hell in a Cell. And so I would say that this is gonna be the conclusion of this feud finally. And of course, this story has been written, really been taking place ever since Punk made his return last year at War Games. Especially with the way that Drew McIntyre stormed out of the ring, just rushed out the ring as soon as Punk showed up. I was like, okay, yeah, this is generational beef right here. So yeah, like I said, as far as that Monday Night Raw, definitely kicked off with a banger. Of course, the first match. Speaking of bangers, Sheamus versus Pete Dunne. And and of course the winner of this match, is Pete Dunne. And of course the match at the end, Sheamus hit the pump knee strike, and the ref snatched the shillelagh away from him. As of course as Sheamus was distracted, Pete Dunne with a cricket bat, and then knocked him out with a brogue kick. To pick up the win. So he won by way of pinfall. Pete Dunne. And so of course, Jey Uso. Of course, we also have a segment with Jey Uso told the Terror Twins he'll have their back during the Damien Priest match with Dominic Mysterio. And of course, we see Xavier Woods join the conversation. Then he asked them the Terror Twins to not get involved in the match. And of course he tells Xavier, to whoop the Judgment Day and take those titles. Of course, as far as that, of course, after that, we have Zoe Stark with the Pure Fusion Collective, aka the Stud Patrol, versus Natalia, accompanied by Zelina Vega and Lara Valkyria. And the winner of this match by pinfall is Natalia. Then we have the segment with Jey Uso and Braun Breaker. And of course, Jay comes out and says, he says, I said, main event, Jey Uso is now your city. Of course, comes out the Yeet. And he talks about, I had a match with Braun Breaker. And he was like, my first, he goes, what is it? They says my first, sorry about it being my first championship in WWE, at least first singles championship. And, of course, this is an opportunity that Jay always wanted. Of course, ever since he first came to Raw, ever since he left the Bloodline, and he's talking about how he didn't need any help. He could finally be on his own. His first singles championship, but he could finally be main event Jey Uso, and he's definitely not gonna let this opportunity pass him by. And of course, as far as that, and I think this is definitely big for him. And just to make a name for himself on his own, just to wash off the stench of being in the Bloodline and being in Roman's shadow, and just being gaslit and just abused and manipulated by Roman for the better part of 3 years. So now Jay has broken out that shadow. You know what I mean? And so of course, Braun Breaker comes out and asks me if there are any dogs in Portland, because Raw is in Portland. And of course, Braun Breaker gets in Jay's face, and he's like, I told you to stay away, and yet here you are with this relentless pursuit for my Intercontinental Championship. And so of course, he tells Jay that what you're doing out here, trying to prove to the entire world, your family, that you can do it by yourself, that you don't need the help of your family to succeed as a single star. And so Braun was saying they did his homework since the last time that they spoke. And it was like, like 14 years you've been here. It was like 14, that's been a long time. There's no doubt, that Jay's been the star, one of the biggest in WWE. They love him. They love Chen Yeet. They love the main event, Jey Uso, and things like that. But he's like, of course, Braun definitely hits a low blow where he says, the funny thing is I managed to do more as a single superstar in 6 months than you have in your entire career. Ouch. And of course, Braun just continues to put the sword further in the chest. He was like, here's the kicker. I did it without my father. I did it without my uncle. Of course, being the Steiner brothers, of course. And he was like, I didn't need my family's help. I didn't need their name. I did it all by myself. Got a point though. And of course, he asked Jay. He was like, "Do you know why?" He's like, "This is my family. This is what I fight for. I don't fight for." He was like, "I don't fight for this championship." He's like, "The championship fights for me." He's like, "I'm a dog. That's what I do." Next Monday when they fight for the Intercontinental Championship, he was like, of course, Braun says, "I'm going to expose you, Jay, because you're nothing without your family." So he wants to prove that that Jay without his family is nothing. And Jay claps back. He was like, "I see it. I seen it, Braun." He says, "You got the dog in you. I promise I'm not going to take you lightly. But like you said, how long you been here? What, 6 months?" He's like, "I've been on this roster for 14 years, winning championships while you wore diapers, boy." He's like, next week we throw hands. Next week for the Intercontinental Championship, I'm going to dog walk you." And what's funny is Jacob Fatu said that same thing in MLW. And I was like, yeah, when it comes to some Samoans, they got them hands. When it comes to some street fights, they're not ones to be played with. You know what I mean? And of course, Jey Uso looks to dog walk. The big dog. Big dog himself, Braun Breaker. And so of course, Jay says that the next week we're going to see what you're about. We're going to definitely see what you're made of. We're going to see how long it's going to last. It might end up being short, sweet, just like your NFL career. So you want to talk about the biggest low blow of them all. I mean, this is the biggest kick in the crown jewels, if you will. So I was like, yeah, I can't wait for it. So after that, Braun proceeds to punch Jay, and then as he goes for his crisscross spear, Jay counters with a spear of his own to close out the segment.
Then after that, we have we have the Judgment Day defend their championship against the New Day for the World Tag Team titles. And of course, your winners and still champions by pinfall, the Judgment Day. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, Xavier, of course, we find out backstage, Xavier Woods finds out that Kofi Kingston went behind his back and asked LWO to help. And then Kofi knows that the New Day doesn't need help, but things have changed since Big E's no longer around. And that's the trigger right there. So that's definitely one of the things I want to talk about. Like I said, really emphasize just looking at the implosion of the New Day, right? And how catastrophic it has become. I mean, of course, and the thing is, I want to take this time once again to celebrate the contributions of the New Day. As they're a legendary tag team, iconic tag team and faction, among the greatest of all time, both as a tag team as well as a faction collectively, and how they have redefined factions, especially when it comes to Black factions. For them to be together for 10 years, shout out to Gresh for bringing this up last night. For them to be together 10 years, when usually we don't even, when you look like this, we don't even get 10 minutes. So for them to, for them to have this sustained run together for a decade, and the mark that they have made, the impact that they have made when it comes to tag teams, when it comes to factions, when it comes to just black wrestling culture in general, is monumental. How initially when they got together, the first thing so many people thought about was, all right, it's going to be another Nation of Domination. Especially with the way that Xavier got in Kofi and Big E's faces, right? So people thought that they're going to, be another rehash of that. But then when it was unveiled, at first, a lot of people, especially a lot of Black fans, didn't understand it, didn't really get it, but they found a way to really make this turnaround. And what they did was they showed that they were not afraid to be themselves. They were able to disarm so many fans, especially Black fans, disarm them and let them know that it's fine to be yourself. It's fine to be Black and be a fan of, anime and video games, comics, all that type of stuff, things like that. And the New Day was Xavier's brainchild. You know what I mean? This initially, like I said, initially was his vision, right? This was originally his concept, his baby, right? And to see this group grow the way that it did, people want to talk about money making and ticket sales and ticket sales and putting butts in seats. New Day checked off all those boxes. 2 out of 3 have been WWE champions. They've been 11-time tag team champions. At one point, they broke Demolition's record for the single longest tag team title reign. Eventually, the Usos shattered that record later on, and of course, there's New Day's arch rivals anyway. But yeah, like I said, and the journey that they have had, and now, without one of the most vital members of the group, it's just like, what do we have to fight for? Like, what else is left, really? And to see Xavier just go off and explode, and the way that he did is letting you know that, excuse the expression, is definitely trouble in paradise. And I'm not talking about Kofi's finisher. So the writing is on the wall. New Day, the New Day have definitely made their mark,
and crafted themselves as legends, as future Hall of Famers. But I think there's going to be a bigger, it's meant to be a bigger payoff for Xavier, for him to have his own type of breakout singles, chance opportunity, because let's face it, the two biggest stars of that faction, to be honest, have been Kofi and Big E, just because they've had greater single success, and as a matter of fact, even Karrion Kross has pointed out how out of the three members of the New Day, Xavier has accomplished the least on his own. And and of course, Karrion has brought up how when you talk about the New Day, more people are going to remember Big E and Kofi. They're going to talk about them more. Big Xavier, not so much. And I'm pretty sure that's definitely got to be, weighing on his mind, and to see what he has created start to deteriorate. And especially this year being the 10th anniversary, I think next week is going to be when they pull the trigger. And, it's definitely going to make me sad, but it's just like, there's nothing else left to prove, We might be looking at the end of an era, and been a great ride, been a great journey. But at some point, great things must come to an end. So yeah, moving on from that, we also have Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman, which ended in no contest. And we have of course, the Sami Zayn and Luke Kaiser and Gunther segment, and so of course, this continues to continues to build the feud between Sami and Gunther, and how Kaiser backstage brought up how Sami Zayn has yet to be a world champion, and how he's had a reputation of turning on his best friend, with the way he turned on Kevin Owens, and how he's never going to be what his best friend has been before, and that's a world champion, and so I like how Kaiser has been thrown in as an added element with this feud between Sami and Gunther, and so of course after that we have Bianca Belair with Jade Cargill versus Io Sky and Kairi Sane, surprise win by the genius of the Sky, Io. Then we have Damian Priest accompanied by Rhea Ripley versus Dirty Dominic, Domino, along with the Judgment Day. And the winner of this match by pinfall is Damian Priest. But at the end, he definitely did not look like a winner. As at the end of the day, the Judgment Day would end up standing tall. Along the way, Jey Uso came, like I say, along the way we saw the Judgment Day attack Damian Priest, and then of course, sorry about that. Like I said, of course, we see Liv throw Rhea into the steel ring steps. Jey Uso end up joining in on the action, only for Braun Breaker to spear him. Then of course, the Judgment Day works on the left leg of Damian Priest, and then of course Liv nails Rhea with the Oblivion, and of course Finn Balor plants Damian Priest with 3 coup de grace. And at the end of Raw, we see the Judgment Day standing tall, the Terror Twins, as Raw goes off the air. So that's the conclusion of in that Raw. And like I said, of course, last but not least, we have NXT and let make sure sort of kind of speed things up, if you will, a little bit. And like I say, one of the highlights for NXT. So of course, congratulations to Javon Evans, who is going to, as a matter of fact, Ava Rain opened up NXT with this announcement about when NXT goes to St. Louis. Sexy Red is going to return, and we're also going to have a match between Javon Evans and, get this, 14-time world champion Randy Orton. That was not a typo. That, like I said, that is actually going to be a thing. Let's see, NXT. Yeah, that is definitely a huge feather in Javon Evans' cap, and I know that's definitely a huge morale booster, for them to have that much faith in him, for them to believe in him that much, means a lot. That speaks volumes of his talent. That speaks volumes of his character. That speaks volumes of his potential, of his upside. So last week, Trick Williams defeated Pete Dunne in a last man standing match to become the number one contender for Ethan Page's NXT Championship. And of course, to kick off NXT, Trick and Ethan would have a contract signing, and it'll escalate very, very quickly. And this week's episode of NXT was the finale of being was a finale in USA before moving over to the CW. And so NXT kicks off with the contract signing, which fell apart real fast, as all ego Ethan Page nails Trick Williams with a razor's edge through razor's edge through the table. Actually, I forgot what the name of his finishing move is, but yeah, like I said, that's what it was. But yeah, and then the fans chanted "Trick got whooped" instead of "Whoop that Trick." They said Trick got whooped. And then of course, we have Tyrese Halliburton promising to get the contract signed. Then we have Lara Valkyrie and Tatum Paxley versus Wendy Chu and Rosemary. And the winners of this match by pinfall are Lara Valkyrie and Tatum Paxley. Then we have Tony D'Angelo versus Hammerstone. The winner of this match by count-out is Hammerstone. And and of course, I like the way things are building up, between Tony D'Angelo and of course and Obafemi. And so like I said, I definitely like the layers that are being added to the storyline. Then of course we have Eddie Thorpe versus Ashanti the Adonis. Eddie Thorpe wins by pinfall. Still Ashanti hasn't really found his footing when it comes to being as far as being on his own as a singles competitor. And of course we have CM Punk getting caught between Roxanne Perez and Julia. And with like I say, when of course Punk stopped Perez from attacking Julia from behind, so it just it certainly creates some type of tension between Punk and Perez, because Roxanne Perez was definitely a fan of CM Punk, one of his proteges, if you will, and so Punk named potential future rivals, including Lexis King, Carmelo Hayes, Ethan Page, Braun Breaker, and others. Of course, Punk said he could appreciate the overconfident champion, understood the chip that he has on his shoulder, and of course, CM Punk is going to be at NXT when it's in Chicago. And of course, NXT is no longer going to be just at the Performance Center, but they're actually going to go on, to different places from St. Louis for Orton, as well as to Chicago for CM Punk.
And of course, that's Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander defeat no quarter catch crew by pinfall. Then we have Brooks Jensen, accompanied by Sean Spears, versus Deion Lennox. And of course, Shawn Michaels talked about how he has issues with what I kind of misquoted that, but yeah, like I said, of course, gave an update on Brooks Jensen. Like I said, Brooks Jensen versus Deion Lennox, and the winner by way of pinfall was Brooks Jensen. Then we have Lola Vice versus JC Jane, a Fatal Influence, and Lola Vice wins by way of pinfall. And of course, afterwards we see tensions between Lola Vice and of course, Lola Vice and Jada Parker. So it looked like they were teasing alliance, but hardly looks like they really need each other, to take down to take down this trio of a Fatal Influence, and so of course the big announcement is that of course after the contract signing with Ethan Page and Trick Williams, CM Punk will be the special guest referee. So of course that's the main announcement, and also NXT Punk got between Roxanne Perez and Julia, and of course Roxanne just straight cooked Punk on the mic, saying that she should have been Drew McIntyre from the beginning. I was like, man, that was definitely a bruise to Punk's ego. But yeah, like I said, as far as that, that concludes my week in wrestling, and so if anything, those were the main talking points that I had. So I pretty much cover all the necessary ground, if you will. And so that's pretty much it when it comes to my thoughts on the week in wrestling when it comes to SmackDown, Raw, NXT, and other news as well. And so, so of course, as far as birthdays, Dan Marino this past Sunday turned 63. Teddy Long turned 77. BB King as a matter of fact, that BB King on September 16th would have turned 99. And also this week Renee Paquette turns 39. Calla Pratt turned 38 this week. And then on September 19th, Sanaa Lathan turns 53. BB Winans also turns 62 this week. Like I said, Sanaa Lathan turns 53. Renee Paquette turns 39 on September 19th. Arn Anderson turns 66 on September 20th. Greg Valentine turns 73, and Bill Murray turns 74. So, and of course, also this past week, September 14th. Before I go off track, Nas turned 51, and some other birthdays that I forgot to mention. Last week, Ludacris turned 47 on 9/11. So, like I said, so of course those are some of the notable celebrity birthdays. I'm getting tongue tied. Those are notable celebrity birthdays. Celebrity birthdays for this week. And so, so my word of wisdom is to stay grounded in God's word. And of course, if you're gonna stay strong in the faith, you have to have strong roots. And of course, God has created you for a purpose. And of course, God promises to deliver you out of your afflictions. Like I said, as long as you stay steadfast in His word and stay steadfast in His promises, you are victorious, because greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. In the world, we put God in first place. You don't have to worry about being in last place. And of course, you could listen to Of course, please make sure to listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else that you download podcasts. Thank you very much for listening and even watching. May this day be the very best. May this day be the very best day of your life. And have a great night.